First, let's go and break down the stats. Again, this is for October 4th through the 11th. New listings. How many homes hit the market last week? Brand new, 72. And this has been pretty consistent now for many weeks in that 60 to 80 zone. Fall is typically a slower season, a slower period in real estate. And even though everything that's going on out in the world these days, it's still holding true. Okay, that number was in the low hundreds throughout the summer, but now that we're into the fall, we're at 72. So 72 new homes out there, Kitsap, for you to go pounce on. How about the number of homes that have lowered their price? The theme the past few months is the market is correcting. Okay, it's correcting more towards the buyers. It was so high for sellers for so long as it just kept climbing. What we're seeing now is homes are actually reducing their prices. And this past week we had, again, 97 homes, about 20% of the active market lowered their prices. This has been consistent now for many weeks. I mean, I can go probably back into August of seeing homes, 20% of the market lowering their prices. A number we never saw out of the single digits for a couple of years there, maybe one or two, that homes are just super insanely overpriced. They had to adjust. But right now that just tells me that the market's adjusting and all the people are still kind of chasing it right now. Okay, 97 homes lowered their prices. Let's talk about actual activity. How many contracts were written? We had 112 offers accepted last week and 76 homes actually closed. So 112, 76, still seeing that 30 to 40 number gap here, which tells me homes are falling out of contract. Not every single home that goes under contract is going to sell, right? People get their inspections. People have maybe financing conundrums and they need to back out. They just get cold feet and they back out because they're nervous for whatever reason, okay? So, again, pretty consistent. Ironically, last week they were kind of flipped upside down, so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects, in 3 weeks from now, because these are lagging indicators, right? So these 76 homes that sold went pending probably 4 weeks ago or so, 30 days. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the numbers here towards the end of October. How about actual homes? How many homes are out there? Right now we have 551 active homes without Bainbridge Island in Kitsap County. Again, been very consistent, floating around in that 550 zone for a while now. So 550 homes, lots of homes out there to choose from. You can make it work if you need to buy a home, okay? Days on market, again, another pretty consistent number for the last few weeks. 32 days was the average time a house was put on the market, sat, waited, and then they got an offer accepted. This was just 6 months ago. This was down in the 7, 8, 9, 10 days, very quick. Okay, now this is an average of all homes. There's some properties out there that have been on the market for 180 days, okay, so that's gonna bring it up some. And there still are some homes out there that are pricing accordingly, that are in very desirable neighborhoods that are selling still in that first weekend. So there is some, it really is a case by case, which is for most homes, but just generally 32 days, very high. We're back at that magical 30-day mark that we got accustomed to before this market we were previously in. Okay. How about home prices? What are they selling for in Kitsap County? Homes are still selling for a pretty good amount, $563,000. But a little perspective, 8, 9 years ago, this number was in the 300s. So we had that big shoot up, and it's leveling. Okay, it's leveling, and it's just kind of trickling down. We're not seeing any sort of fall, steep, big time decline on the average sold price. So homes are still valuable out there in Kitsap. This is a desirable area. Homes are still valuable. We still have, I would say, somewhat of a supply issue. Even though we do have a lot of 550, there's still some of that supply. Okay. Now, a couple stats I don't break down very often, but I thought it'd be kind of fun today is, well, that's great. So we had 76 homes sell. But how many of them sold, percentage-wise, sold at list price, so right at the price that they were listed for? And how many actually sold below list? I'm kind of curious about that. Because before, in the previous market 6 months ago, everything was selling high, right? Everything was above. About 85, 90% of homes were selling above list price. It was crazy. But this will show you how much of a shift there's been in a relatively short time. Okay, so 32% sold at list price, and 43% sold below list. Almost half the homes out there sold below what they were listed for, which makes sense. You know, sellers still obviously want to get the most out of their home sale, and so they want to price at the top of the market, but eventually they'll have to realize that they have to go a bit low. So 75% of the inventory out there last week, of the sold homes I should say, 75% sold at or below list price. So I want to ask you guys a question. Out of all of these stats that we're seeing here, what would you say is the indicator that we're either in a buyer's market or a seller's market? Okay, there is no doubt about it. 6 months ago and the previous 2 years before that, we were in a definite seller's market. There's no questioning that. But are we still in a seller's market? Which stat do you think would indicate that? Well, I'll tell you, it's the one I just went over. We are definitely in a buyer's market. Okay? Now, we are in a buyer's market just because of what I just said. 75% of homes are selling at or below list price. So if you're a buyer, you're getting a discount, okay, than what it had been, all right? A lot of people like to use inventory, how many months of inventory are out there, but we really need to look at what's actually going on out there. What are homes selling at or above or below list price? And right now, 3/4 of them are at or below. So we are in a buyer's market right now. Regardless of everything that's going on with the interest rates, buyers, it's your time. Like you've been waiting for this, okay? So, but what I'd like to do here, so that's the stats for this week. What I'd like to do here is kind of shift and give a real life example. I just got done telling you it's a buyer's market. But Joey, how could that possibly be if what we're seeing here with interest rates going up? And that's something I'll talk about at the very end. But what I would like to break down, and I think this is a good example to give sellers right now a little bit of a reality check of what's going on, is I want to give some real life examples, break down some numbers of what is going on with these interest rates and what it actually means to buyers. Okay? We heard all about this, interest rates are going up, going up, going up. Okay, but what does that really mean for me in real life? So I want to do an example here, very generic, because everything kind of fluctuates depending on people's credit scores, how much money they're putting down, what kind of loan they're getting. There's so many different things that go into it, but very generic. I want to go for an example of a 30-year, this is a buyer that's going with a 30-year fixed, 7.3% interest rate right now, which is right where we're at. So 7.3%. They have a 750 credit score, so they got a good credit. And they're doing 0% down, just to make it easy. So it's like a VA, maybe like a VA type loan, okay? 0% down. So right now, what would be my payment? This is including taxes and PMI and home insurance, okay? So what's my monthly payment? I have my numbers right here. On a $350,000 house, okay? I mean, we just got done telling you that the average sold is $563, but we're gonna go for a $350, make it simple, okay? Right now, that person at 7.3% is paying $3,155 per month, okay? If that sounds like a lot, it is. All right, on a $350,000 house. Now, 0% down, but they have good credit at today's rates, okay? $3,155. Well, let's compare it to just 5 months ago when the average interest rate is around 3.5%. So at 3.5%, that same exact house, everything else remaining the same, was $2,328 per month. A difference of $827. So just because of the rates that are going on with the Fed and bumping them up, that same exact house, your job hasn't, you haven't gotten a big pay raise or nothing like that. This is still your budget. It has changed $827 a month for this $350,000 house. Okay. Now, let's say, I wanted to buy a house back in May, Joey, but this is my budget. I only have $2,300 a month I can possibly spend. What can I afford now at these rates? Well, right now, keeping everything else the same, if you want to keep this payment, you have to look at homes at $260,000. So that's a loss of $90,000 in buying power. And I don't know if you looked out there right now, but a home for $260,000, that's going to be difficult to finance. This is the reality of the situation, how much things have changed in 5 months, which in real estate is a very short amount of time. You've lost $90,000 in buying power if you between now and then. Okay? So that's for $350. I want to show you, because everything's relative, everything's percentages. The higher we go up in price of a home, the larger effect it's going to have. And how many more, like we are seeing the biggest effects in our homes in that $700,000 plus price range, because it's just killing that pool right now. Okay, this is for you sellers, just to get an idea of why you're not getting as many showings. Okay, so keeping everything else the same, this is the same buyer. Okay, they just want to buy a $700,000. Right now, for a 30-year fixed, 7.3% zero down home, if you want to buy this, that payment is $6,309 per month. That is a huge house payment. Okay, $6,309. Again, that's including home insurance, PMI, taxes, the whole thing. Okay. Well, this house, same house, at 3.5% 5 months ago, it was $4,653 a month. A difference of $1,656. Just that magical interest rate number changing, your payment now is $1,656 higher. Same house. Well, let's go back. Joey, I can only spend $4,650 a month. That's my top. That's all I can spend. How much of a home can I afford right now at this rate? You can afford a $520,000 house. That is a loss of $180,000 in buying power. Just like that. Poof. $180,000 you lost in buying power. These are real numbers, okay? Again, everything's relative, kind of depends on everyone's situation, but it just puts, if you read through all my chicken scratch here, it just puts everything into perspective. My sellers that are up in that higher echelon of home there, why am I not getting the calls? Why am I not? Because the people now that can afford your house, they're up in the $1 million zone. Those are people that can afford, they could have afforded $1 million home 5 months ago. Now they're down to 7. You understand? Like, it's just the higher you go in price, the bigger, larger effect. So, what do? I have to buy a house. Like, this is unacceptable. It won't work. What do? I feel hopeless. That's why you work with a trusted realtor, and you think outside the box. Okay, you got to think of maybe some owner financing type options. You have to lay out a strategy, and and after you lay out all your options, it might be okay to say it's not a good time to buy right now. I'm gonna have to figure out something to hang on to for about 6 months and see what happens. Okay, but I'll tell you that rate is going to probably go up probably one or probably two more times by the end of the year. The Fed's already hinted at that. We could be creeping in the 8 to 9% territory. Again, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. It's just what we hear throughout the grapevine. But this just puts some real life numbers on what's going on out there. So if you have to buy, if that's where you're at right now. Now this, again, this is for 0% down. People with equity, a lot of equity in their homes. They're just trying to switch up homes. you should be able to make it work. You should be able to get, but first time buyers, we might have to get creative. We might have to reach out. We might have to figure out a good way, a good like owner finance type solution. So that is the stats for this week. Again, for October 4th through the 11th, I'll come back next week with some fresh stats, and I'll see you next week.